Welcome back to the Technology Risk Podcast.
Great to be back. Today, we're looking at something that's, well, it's pretty much the worst case scenario for anyone in operations or IT leadership.
Yeah, exactly. That sudden catastrophic failure of really critical infrastructure, all because a single vendor gets compromised.
It's chilling stuff.
And before we really dig into how one specific hack managed to ground flights across Europe, just a quick reminder, please take a second to subscribe. On Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, it really helps you stay ahead, especially with risks like these that can just pop up seemingly out of nowhere.
So set the scene for us. It started with chaos, right?
Absolute chaos. We're talking planes stuck on the tarmac, baggage systems completely frozen, thousands and thousands of passengers just stranded all over Europe.
And the kicker is, it wasn't weather, it wasn't a strike.
Nope. It was a cyber attack.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even directly hitting the airports initially. It was targeting one single crucial technology supplier.
Right, the central point of failure. And it's almost scary how centralized it was. The attack hit Collins Aerospace's MUSE check-in and boarding systems.
Exactly, MUSE. That's the software handling, passenger flow, ticketing, gate assignments. It's embedded across so many European airports.
It really is a perfect storm, isn't it? A real-world lesson in systemic fragility. We're talking about the danger of putting all your eggs in one basket, essentially, especially when that basket is held by a third party.
Precisely. When one component becomes like the central nervous system for something so critical, well, if it goes down.
Everything goes down with it instantly.
And this isn't some theoretical threat anymore. The trend is actually pretty alarming. We looked at the data and supply chain cyber attacks. They surged by, what was it?
An incredible 243% in 2023. Just staggering. And transportation systems are clearly a major target within that.
Yeah, they really are. So our goal today is to really unpack how one breach like this can ripple outwards and cripple a whole sector. We'll look at the true cost, not just the immediate dollars and cents, but the trust erosion too.
And importantly, we want to give you some concrete, actionable steps, things you can actually do for resilience planning, especially if you're in an industry where, uptime is absolutely critical, non-negotiable.
Okay, so let's get into the anatomy of this aviation compromise. You mentioned MUSE. Maybe unpack that a bit more. Why is this system such a big deal?
Well, it's not just some simple ticketing app, right? It's core infrastructure.
Yeah.
It handles everything from the moment you check in, verifying your ID, linking your bag, assigning your seat, all the way to scanning your boarding pass at the gate.
It's deeply integrated.
Deeply. And it's used so widely across major European hubs that widespread adoption is what makes it, as you said, like that central nervous system.
Which means when the hackers got into the vendor system, the blast radius wasn't just one airport.
No, it spread like wildfire. It cascaded immediately. Airports had no choice but to fall back to, manual methods, pens, paper, huge queues.
Yeah, grinding everything to a halt. And that blast radius effect, it's magnified because of how the market is structured. Our sources suggest something like 62% of aviation tech vendors serve multiple major airports.
Wow, 62%.
So a single failure at the vendor level, it instantly hits multiple airlines, multiple cities, potentially multiple countries all at once. That efficiency of centralization becomes a huge centralized risk.
That statistic alone should be a wake-up call for anyone relying heavily on one critical supplier. You think you're managing risk by going with a big name.
But you might actually be concentrating it, yeah.
So how did they get in? Do we know the specifics of the attack vector?
The full forensics are likely still ongoing, but the consensus among experts points towards the usual suspects' vulnerabilities in how vendors remotely access systems, or maybe insecure third-party integrations.
That sounds disturbingly familiar. It really echoes the SolarWinds incident, doesn't it?
It's almost the exact same playbook. It's about exploiting trust. You don't always have to breach the main target's walls directly.
Right.
You compromise a supplier they trust, maybe through a dodgy software update or a weak remote maintenance connection. Once you're inside the supplier's network.
You use that trusted connection like a highway straight into the customer systems. In this case, the airports and airlines using MUSE.
Exactly. And that broken trust leads us straight to the really painful part, the true cost of this kind of dependency. It's way beyond just delayed flights.
Yeah, the operational impact. You mentioned manual fallbacks. Why are they just not a workable solution these days?
Well, think about it. Modern air travel relies on speed, efficiency, and complex security checks. Trying to do that with handwritten boarding passes and manual ID checks, it's incredibly slow.
Painfully slow.
And it opens up security holes. Plus, you suddenly need massive amounts of staff working overtime, trying to manage the chaos. It's just not sustainable.
And there are hard numbers associated with this. We found estimates that each hour of IT system downtime in aviation can cost an airport up to $150,000 per hour.
Yeah, and that's just the airport's cost. Think aircraft repositioning, crew costs piling up while they wait, potential regulatory fines for safety issues caused by delays, and that massive overtime bill for staff.
Then you have the airline's losses layered on top of that.
Oh, absolutely. Beyond the airport fees, the airlines themselves are bleeding cash. They have to handle delays, mandatory compensation, especially under EU rules, plus refunds, rebooking passengers.
It adds up fast. We saw reports that one major European carrier lost over 10 million in a single weekend because of these disruptions.
10 million euros. And that's just one airline. Imagine the total cost across the whole system.
But it's not just the money, is it? The reputational hit can be brutal and maybe even last longer.
It's a huge point. Because when you're that passenger stuck in a 5-hour queue,
You're not blaming some invisible IT vendor called Collins Aerospace.
no, you're blaming the airline whose logo is on the check-in desk, on the plane you can't board. They become the face of the failure.
And that translates directly into future lost business. There was a survey, wasn't there?
Yeah, pretty striking. 58% of travelers said they'd seriously reconsider flying with an airline if they'd experienced major delays caused by IT problems.
Almost 60%. So that vendor's failure hits the airline's bottom line not just immediately, but down the road too, through lost customer loyalty.
Definitely. A long-term wound.
Okay, so the problem is clear. Centralized dependencies create massive risk, and the costs are enormous. Let's pivot now. What are the practical lessons? What can organizations actually do to build real resilience?
Well, lesson one is kind of a tough pill to swallow. It's about oversight failure. We often assume big vendor equals secure vendor.
But that's a dangerous assumption.
It is, and the system seems to enable it. Our research showed only about 36% of companies actually do formal cybersecurity risk assessments of their really critical vendors.
Only 36%. Wow, that feels negligent almost.
It's certainly a huge gap. So strategy one has to be enforcing rigorous vendor risk management, not just ticking a box.
Okay, so what does rigorous look like in practice? More than just a clause in a contract, right?
Much more. It means mandatory, deep-dive third-party cyber audits. And ideally, your auditor's getting involved, not just relying on the vendor's own reports.
Okay.
It means demanding relevant security certifications. And maybe most crucial, requiring transparent, immediate incident reporting. If they have a breach, you need to know now, not read about it in the news weeks later.
Makes sense. So strategy 2 seems like a logical next step. Diversification. Don't rely on just one vendor for something absolutely critical.
Exactly. Avoid that single point of failure.
But let me push back a little there. Isn't managing multiple independent systems a potential nightmare? Integration headaches, maybe double the IT costs? How do you balance that?
That's the core trade-off, you're right.
Yeah.
But the key is focusing the redundancy. You might not need 3 entirely separate full-stack systems doing everything.
Okay.
You need redundancy for the absolute most critical function.
Yeah.
In aviation, that's passenger check-in and boarding authorization. The cost of setting up and integrating a solid independent backup for that specific piece.
It's probably tiny compared to $150,000 an hour in downtime.
Precisely. Think of diversification as essential resilience insurance. It pays off when things go wrong.
Right. Okay, strategy 3. We agreed those manual fallbacks are basically useless for modern needs. So resilience means building digital redundancies. What does that look like?
It's about having alternative pre-tested ways to process essential transactions. Instead of paper and pens, you have, say, an independent, maybe geographically separate backup processing center.
Okay, like a hot site.
Sort of, yeah. Designed specifically to take over critical functions, basic passenger ID checks, issuing a secure digital boarding pass the moment the main vendor system hiccups. And crucially, it needs to be isolated. Different network paths, maybe even different underlying tech, so the same attack can't knock out both primary and backup.
Got it. Strategy 4. Applying zero trust principles, something we talk about for internal networks, but applying it to vendors.
Absolutely critical. Vendors inevitably need some access for maintenance, updates, etc. But zero trust says, don't trust, always verify. Limit what they can access, principle of least privilege.
Right.
Continuously verify every single session. That means strong multi-factor authentication every time, monitoring what they're doing, and using things like time-limited access tokens if they only need access for 2 hours.
The token dies after 2 hours. Prevents attackers who might compromise the vendor from having persistent access into your systems.
Exactly. Close that door automatically.
And the final strategy, number 5, one that I suspect gets skipped a lot.
Yes.
Actually simulating failure.
Yes. Running drills.
Yeah.
Not just tabletop exercises, but potentially live drills where you specifically simulate the critical vendor system failing.
And that's different from simulating your own internal system failure, isn't it?
It is, because when your own system fails, you control the recovery. When a vendor fails, you have to practice activating those diversified backup systems we talked about.
Activating strategy 2 and 3.
Right. Leadership needs to know beforehand. Who makes the call to declare the vendor system offline? How do we seamlessly switch to the backup? What's the communication plan? You have to rehearse that pivot.
And the interesting thing is, these strategies aren't just theoretical. We've seen them work and fail in the real world.
Definitely. There's that great example of a U.S. airport consortium. They made a conscious decision proactively to require multiple independent boarding system vendors across their airports.
So they already had diversification built in.
They did. And when one of those vendors got hit with a pretty nasty ransomware attack, what happened?
The other systems just kept running.
Exactly. Service continued almost uninterrupted at the airports using the unaffected vendors. Minimal disruption. It was a clear win for diversification, proving its value immediately.
But there's the flip side, too, the cautionary tale, like that airline whose global ticketing vendor got taken down by ransomware.
Oh, yeah, that was bad. Flights halted globally. That single vendor failure grounded their entire operation worldwide.
And the cost.
Hundreds of millions in direct losses, massive lawsuits, and just devastating reputational damage. It hammers home the lesson. Outsourcing a function doesn't mean outsourcing the risk. Their security is your security.
So bringing this all together, what's the path forward for future-proofing critical infrastructure like aviation? Seems like a fundamental mindset shift is needed.
It really is. First, organizations have to start treating vendor systems as if they are part of their own internal network, their own attack surface. Apply the same security rigor, the same scrutiny to those third parties.
No more assuming they've got it covered.
No more. Second, we probably need more regulatory pressure, mandating standardized cybersecurity audits, forcing better transparency and reporting for these critical aviation vendors globally. Make security a baseline requirement, not an optional extra.
And finally,
more proactive threat intelligence sharing across the industry. If one airline spots a vulnerability in a shared vendor system or sees chatter about an impending attack,
that information needs to get out instantly so others can patch or prepare before they become the next victim.
it's exactly collective defense.
Okay, so to wrap this up, the attack on the Collins Aerospace MUSE system was a stark reminder, wasn't it? It really exposed just how fragile things can become when we rely too heavily on centralized vendors, especially in critical sectors like air travel, millions lost, trust damaged.
And the key takeaway for you listening, whatever industry you're in, is the need to move beyond those slow, frankly inadequate manual fallback plans.
Yeah, the shift has to be towards proactive digital resilience, real diversification, not just hoping your main vendor never fails.
So the call to action is clear. Audit your vendors. Understand your dependencies. Aggressively diversify where it matters most. And please, rehearse those failure scenarios. Know what you'll do when, not if, a critical vendor goes down.
We'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. In this incredibly connected world we live in, your weakest vendor really is your biggest vulnerability. Don't wait for their breach to become your full-blown crisis.
That's all the time we have for this discussion on the Technology Risk Podcast.
Please make sure you hit subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, or your favorite platform. That way, you won't miss our analysis of the crucial tech and business challenges we face today. Thanks for joining us.